Here's what's coming today on the Woodworking Network podcast.
And so that's the power of getting adoption, is to make sure that the people that are doing the work are the ones that are solving the problem.
Welcome to this episode of the Woodworking Network podcast. Join us as we explore the business of woodworking, big and small, and what it takes to succeed. I'm Will Sampson. Today's episode is sponsored by FDMC Magazine. Today my guest is Lance Grimm, Senior Vice President of Continuous Improvement at Kodiak Building Partners, where he is tasked with applying lean manufacturing principles to the building supplies and lumber sectors. But first, I want to talk about pushing the envelope. Ask 10 consultants and you'll likely get 10 different terms for efficiency programs. There's lean manufacturing, continuous improvement, Six Sigma, Toyota production system, theory of constraints, batch one-piece flow, mass customization, assembly line production, and the list goes on. What they all have in common at the core is just one thing. We can't be satisfied with the status quo. But it's the way we've always done it, somebody will say. Unfortunately, that doesn't make it right or wrong. Times do change. Company needs and customers change. Machinery, technology, and workforce skills change. Customer tastes change. Materials and finishes change. With all of that change, if you aren't adapting to keep pace, you are losing ground. However, you can't just grab for whatever shiny new thing is floating by. What any improvement program requires first is analysis. It makes it lots easier to change the status quo if you have empirical evidence that the existing system has problems, and even better, some data that might clue you into a source of those problems. Then you must analyze the data to look for improvements, test your solutions, keep analyzing, and keep improving. Too often people see all these efficiency initiatives as goals in themselves. If I can just develop a batch one production system, we'll be in great shape. Not so fast. One of the most common methods of improving efficiency is to look for bottlenecks and attack them. Of course, once you do that, you'll quickly discover you never actually eliminate a bottleneck. You just move it somewhere else in your plant. Making one process more efficient will reveal the inefficiencies somewhere else. That's why the improvement must be continuous. You need to be ever vigilant for potential gains, and you have to be reconciled to the fact that your reward for making any improvement is going to be dealing with another challenge somewhere else. You'll find that your finishing department is the biggest bottleneck in your operation, so you focus all your energies there, eventually achieving huge gains in efficiency. Suddenly now the CNC router seems to be holding everything up. Or maybe it's assembly or rough mill operations or the front office and engineering. One of my favorite books on production improvement is Eli Goldratt's The Goal. If you read it, you'll realize that it's a very ironic title. A goal sounds like a destination, some physical place you can reach. But there's no such thing in modern production. We're dealing constantly with a moving target. And if we are ever lucky or skilled enough to hit that target, there are plenty more ready to pop up to take its place. When you embrace continuous improvement, be sure to focus as much on the continuous as you do on the improvement. Before we get to our interview with Lance Grimm, let's pause for a word from our sponsor. FDMC Magazine is your vital source of information to improve your woodworking business. Whether it's keeping you apprised of the latest advances in manufacturing, helping you solve your wood technology problems with Gene Wengert, or inspiring you with case histories about successful businesses and best practices, FDMC Magazine is there to be the sharpest business tool in your shop. Learn more and subscribe for free at woodworkingnetwork.com/FDMC. Now let's talk with Lance Grimm. Today, my guest is Lance Grimm, Senior Vice President of Continuous Improvement at Kodiak Building Partners, where he is tasked with applying lean manufacturing principles to the building supplies and lumber sectors. Welcome to the Woodworking Network podcast, Lance.
Well, thank you very much, Will. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Well, first off, can you tell me a little bit about Kodiak and what you do? It seems to me I'm constantly getting press releases about Kodiak buying up more building supply companies. You're becoming quite a conglomerate.
Yes, and Kodiak started in 2011 amidst the challenges of the Great Recession, so unique time. And the company emerged with a mission to revolutionize the construction industry. And so they envisioned a decentralized, locally driven approach that honored the family businesses and, but yet fostering growth. And so today, a testament to this vision, with a diverse portfolio of 140 locations across 29 states and a workforce of 7,000 employees.
Wow.
And unlike traditional firms, the Kodiak prioritizes that local autonomy, empowering operating leaders to preserve that community and that family connections and identities, which is unique in the industry. I joined Kodiak in January of this year, and my purpose is to unleash the power of 7,000 deeply rooted and inspired problem solvers who speak a common language focused on learning to see opportunities for improvement through a collaborative lens. And so this is the environment of this family, owned businesses that are not disturbed in their relationship with their communities, but yet providing those tools and resources that the significant larger companies can provide.
Now, lean manufacturing, and continuous improvement, when we think of that, normally we think of that in a manufacturing setting. How does that fit into the model of building supplies?
Yeah, see, I've been in the aerospace and defense industry. I have been in the mobile computing industry. I've been in healthcare, and I've also been in retail. And lean or CI is applicable to any business that has a process. And so it fits very well. And it is a perfect environment when you have a process. And so when I think about lean or continuous improvement, the key focus is that growth mindset. And that's what Kodiak has, is a growth mindset. It's about building a win-win-win proposition to your customers, to your partners, and to the employees.
Can you give some specific examples of how you apply continuous improvement to distribution of lumber and building supplies?
Yeah, so I've only been here for a month or so, but I have some examples that I've seen just over that last month. And one is that we have a lumber yard that is trying to go from 2 deliveries per driver a day to 3 deliveries per driver per day to enable growth, without having to add additional drivers. And this is that growth mindset. This is where we want to come in. We want to use the principles of CI to actually improve the process. So now we can grow the business and satisfy our customers better without having to add those additional people. The team analyzed the associated process. They identified the waste, developed potential countermeasures, and then prioritized those countermeasures, and then selected a countermeasure to actually pilot. They went ahead and piloted it, proved out that they were going to get the savings. And this specific example was included things like whip around. Now, I didn't know what whip around was, but whip around is that in the morning, before you take a semi out, you have to whip around the truck and make sure there's, it's laws that you have to make sure that things like the lights are working, that the tires are not, damaged.
Safety check as you go around.
Safety check.
Yeah.
And so they analyzed this process and it was taking about 20 minutes to actually go around the truck. And what was happening is that the person was going around the truck and maybe stopping, coming back the other direction. The team drew a spaghetti diagram and showed that there was, they were tracing their steps. Well, by analyzing this and, coming up with a new process that actually circled the truck as much as possible just once, they were able to reduce that time from 20 minutes down to 12 minutes. This, even though that you think it's just 8 minutes, it's an important aspect of being able to get that person to free up their time to be able to make that third delivery.
Every little bit of time counts. There's a popular book that I don't know if you are familiar with, called 2 Second Lean, by Paul Akers, and he's basically trying to save 2 seconds.
Exactly. And there's other pieces to the puzzle, as you go through this. And so, like the way that the pickers were actually staging the lumber for the loaders, it wasn't in the order that the loaders picked, so the loaders had to reorganize it. All that was wasted time. And so they were able to focus on that, identify if the pickers were to stage it exactly how the loaders needed, then we could actually free up again time that the truck is sitting there waiting to be loaded. And then finally, they looked at like when the truck actually is delivering the product. Sometimes that the customer's not ready, or they have to reshuffle around product at the customer site, or they have to pick up stuff that's being returned. Those kinds of activities are the ones that keep making up that 8 minutes, 1 minute. And that's how we get to being able to make 3 deliveries a day, again, which allows us to grow without having to add people to the model.
Now you were talking about the local control aspect of Kodiak. How do you reconcile coming up with a solution like this and getting all of those local facilities to adopt this technique?
Yeah, and so what's really important in this locally driven environment is that we don't have common standard work across all of our sites. It's companies make mistakes doing that. They try to make a common standard. This is where the people that actually are doing the work are the ones that are involved in the process improvement, and so they can document exactly what they did. But they get to the change management aspects of it happen right on the spot because they involved the people that are doing the work. They didn't do it to them. They actually had them come up with the ideas themselves. And so that's the power of getting adoption, is to make sure that the people that are doing the work are the ones that are solving the problem. We just provide kind of that facilitation, that guiding thing that says, okay, the last step in the process before you celebrate success is to actually, again, create that new standard, put the standard work in place, and follow something that you've already proven out is a better process.
Well, and once you've got that standard, that helps you in other ways, like with training and everything else too. And that makes it easier to share with, in your case, with multiple facilities that may be doing different techniques.
Yeah.
Now, I understand that continuous improvement at Kodiak is big on measuring progress. Can you share how that works? What are you measuring and how?
Yeah. Data-driven is extremely important. It takes the emotion out of the process. And so, first of all, because we're locally driven, that each partner measures what's most important to their customers, to their business, and to their team members. So think of it from our perspective, measurement is based on the situation. So situation approach. Within the process improvement umbrella, we start off with a process. We understand the metric that's associated with that process. We measure the process to see it with our own eyes, and we see the waste. We measure the waste. We actually come up with improvement opportunities that are based in measurement, and then we pilot those things, again, measuring the success And then when we put that thing in place, again, we measure what the impact of that change is. And the final stage, again, is when we create that standard, we have to create a system of measurement going forward so that we can always measure and see where we're on, standard or off. That's an indicator that we need to go back and take a look and see, are we following the standard? And so measurement is critically important. And again, it takes that emotional aspects out of the problem solve and lets you use data to set you free.
What's been the reaction to the effort throughout Kodiak's operations?
Yeah, it's been very positive, especially from the team members that get to see and hear and watch it. And so we've actually been piloting what we call a Build Excellence initiative. Now, Build Excellence stands for Building Up Individuals for Locally Driven Excellence. And we've had a 4 cycles that they go through. So think of it as learning and doing in short sprints to develop that deeper skill set. And we're actually hired a VP of continuous improvement for training and development called Robert Doshi. And we're extremely excited about our Build Excellence program and to create those deeply rooted problem solvers and seeing them grow. The people, their eyes light up because it's like they're given the steering wheel, and people just thrive in that environment. And so it's been very positive.
Well, that sort of relates to my next question too, though, is, I hear lots of issues with continuous improvement programs that get started, and they don't seem to get buy-in either, from upper level management or the folks at the bottom or middle level. There's some problem in the thing. How does Kodiak develop buy-in at all levels to make it work?
So I'm going to have to plead the fifth on this one because of the fact that I have only started with the company in the last month. But I'll tell you, this is the secret sauce that I bring from my past experience, is to start with why. And the why needs to be compelling to every person involved. They need a chance to understand the why, to believe the why is true, and then they need the chance to become willing to support and engage. Each step along this process, they have questions. If we pass without them getting those questions answered, then it's like an escaping defect of our change management process. And this is how we build inspired problem solvers. And so, again, there has to be a good case for change, that why. It has to be compelling. The team members and the leaders both need to have a chance to understand it and ask questions. They need a chance to believe it to be true and ask questions. And then they need that chance to be willing to support and engage and ultimately become, inspired. And so I think it's, the next piece of the puzzle actually, as we go through this, is to have a common language so that we can talk through. And so what we'll be looking at is A3 thinking, or that slow thinking to go fast. And it's important to have a common language between the people that are actually on the ground coming up with the improvements and the leaders so that they can coach. And having that common language helps people with buy-in, because then they can, as they're having problems, they can talk with their coach. Their coach can actually, ask them insightful questions to be able to, spur on additional thinking. And it's just a model that just keeps building upon itself.
Now, how do you share improvements across the whole Kodiak chain of companies? How do you get a successful improvement at one facility? How do you get that to expand to other facilities?
Yeah, so that's a trick, and I don't know that we have a great model for that yet. But one of the things that we'll look at introducing is something called celebrating CI success. And that's where we have a chance to, maybe there's a magazine where we have a chance to publish these articles. Today, it's just based on, the interaction of the leaders. And so as the the leaders of the building advertise their success. They advertise their success just by communication. And so, we'll look to formalize that as we go forward. But it's important to celebrate that success in a way that actually communicates to other people in the network. Now we do have a tracking of all of our projects that are going on. And so we do have this central repository, but we need to work on actually how does that get out to our different sites that have commonality.
Yeah, it's not like you're in one plant and the morning meeting is a great place to share improvements because people are in different plants and
Yes.
they're not going to be seeing each other. So, what do you see as the greatest challenge of your continuous improvement program at Kodiak?
Yeah, I think it's to go slow, to go fast later. And so, the tendency is to actually go faster than the people can digest, and buy-in suffers. And so that's why we're building a change, I'll call it a change leadership aspect to our CI transformational model. And it is about, again, starting with why, the case for change, and engage all the way to the point of proficiency. So normally we deliver training and then we back off. This model is based on you start with why and you stay with it, you coaching all the way to when the person is actually proficient at their activity. And then we can attack the problems with a clear sense of urgency because we're all on the same page.
Now we've talked about, and it's pretty obvious about the benefits for the company, and to cut waste and that sort of thing, and be able to scale some improvements and make savings across the board. But what benefits do these efforts provide for Kodiak's customers? I mean, a lot of my audience is going to be folks that are customers of Kodiak, and
Yep.
so
that's the beauty of the value proposition for CI is that it's a win-win-win, proposition. The customer wins, the business wins, and the employees win. And as we identify and eliminate waste in our system, what we do is we clear the stream to be able to see the value added steps. What we want to do is focus on those value added steps that the customer really wants. And we want to build trust. The more we can get rid of the waste, the more we can build trust and be more predictable and eliminate that variation, so that we can actually deliver what the customer wants, when they want it, and in the condition that they want it.
I could see, like the example that you gave earlier about the being able to go from 2 deliveries a day to 3 deliveries a day, that could make it a lot better for customers to get their materials on a timely basis. So I can see where that comes in.
Yeah,
And
that's the beauty. The waste is just, it is waste and it's not producing value. What we want to do is focus on that value. And that's the beauty, because that's what the customers pay for, right? They pay for the value. They don't pay for the waste. And so it's a beautiful model. It's a win-win-win model versus a win-lose.
so what advice do you have for someone who is just starting out with a lean manufacturing continuous improvement effort? What
So
should they do?
yeah, so you're going to get a theme from me, that starting with why. And the first thing is to understand the CI case for change. And I'll point you to 2 bodies of knowledge. The first is the Shingo model, SHINGO, based on Shigeo Shingo.
I spent a day with Mr. Shingo back in 1984, so I'm quite familiar with him.
That is awesome because they lay out actually the guiding principles, things like lead with humility and respect everyone. These are powerful. These are what lean and CI are founded on, is that humility, that respect for people. It's just a beautiful model. It goes through the guiding principles, the cultural behaviors, the systems, the tools, and the results, and how each of these interact. So I would focus on that first as kind of an introduction. And then I would look at John Shook's lean transformational model. So he came out in 2014 with this transformational model, and it asked some important questions like, what is our situational purpose? What problem are we trying to solve? Just implementing, lean or continuous improvement for the sake of it is dangerous. But understand that. What purpose are we trying to accomplish? And then what is our basic thinking? How do we improve the work? How do we develop our people? Again, that change leadership aspect of it as well. And then what leadership behaviors do we need? And this actually syncs up perfectly with the Shingo model. And these are two things that, at least in my career, have guided me to be able to not only bring the tools and the processes, but the culture that's needed to make sure that these things are adopted, they're maintained, that they're a way of life, not just a program that comes in and goes out.
Well, the other thing too that I think that is hard for some people to reach an understanding of is that, just as you folks have adopted the term continuous improvement for this system, which is a very common term, the key word there is continuous, because this isn't like some thing that you put in and you're done. This has got to go on over and over and over again, because once you fix one bottleneck, it's just going to move somewhere else.
Yeah, that's sometimes the disheartening part of it. It is the race with no finish line. You continually get better. And I love the fundamentals of lean, actually, and that is value first, and understanding how the customer determines value, and the trust that needs to be built in there. And so you've got that value stream is how we actually deliver the value to the customer, and then flow is the elimination of that waste so that the value flows seamlessly to the customer, and then ultimately pull where we actually are delivering exactly what the customer wants, exactly when they need it, and in the right condition. And then the last piece to the puzzle is that pursuit of perfection, which is CI, which again circles back and says you never stop. You can always understand the value to the customer better. You can always understand that value stream better. You can always get rid of waste. And so it's a beautiful model to continuously improve. And, every company, even Toyota, who is kind of like the grandfather of the lean system, they continually can get better.
Well, Mr. Shingo told me when I met him that he basically stole most of his ideas from early 20th century American efficiency experts, like Henry Ford and the Taylors and the Demings and all that. So none of this is really new. We talk about Toyota production system and Mr. Shingo and Toshio Ono, definitely that's where they came in. But it really is a whole concept of just trying to be better all the time. And
I think the number one thing that most companies miss, they get the technique of how to improve the work, but they miss that respect for people, that deep respect for people. And it's not just how you treat people, but it's making sure that you have a clear case for change. You know what problem you're trying to solve. That you continue to follow that process through. And so that's the beauty of this. And like you said, this stuff has been around for ages and ages. It's not brand new. That's the beauty of it, is that it's not like it's something that changes every year. The same thing that a $100 billion a year revenue company uses, the same tools as a $50 million company uses. It's beautiful.
Well, that's great. Well, I wish you lots of luck as you advance continuous improvement in Kodiak. And I'm sure I'll continue to get press releases on new facilities that you've added to your family.
Awesome. We look forward to it, Will. And thank you again for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
No problem. That's it for today. If you're looking for more of our podcasts, you can find all of them at woodworkingnetwork.com/podcasts and in popular podcast channels. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Thanks again to today's sponsor, FDMC Magazine. If you have a comment or topic you'd like us to explore, contact me at will.sampson@woodworkingnetwork.com. Thanks for listening.